With the MLB season fast approaching, it's time for me to share one sleeper from every team entering 2025, and why not start off with the Chicago White Sox, where I'm going with starting pitcher Sean Burke. Considering that Burke is the opening day starter for the Sox, this is a pretty sad sleeper pick, but he's ultimately not well known around the baseball community. He has really impressed this spring with a mid-90s fastball and a devastating changeup that was extremely effective in a small sample size last season. Next up is Gavin Williams from the Cleveland Guardians, who is gaining a lot of steam from many this spring. He disappointed in 2024 with a 4.86 ERA and 76 innings, but his talent and upside is undeniable if he's able to limit walks. He completely lost the feel of his slider last year, which had more of a cutter shape to it, so his focus has been on refining that pitch to go along with an above-average fastball and curveball. Moving on to my sleeper pick for the Tigers, my choice is Reese Olson. Olson had a pretty solid year last season, but I think he takes another step in 2025. This is a guy who is both a plus changeup and plus slider paired with an above-average fastball that has gained velocity so far this spring, so more strikeouts should be on the way than what he showed with an underwhelming 21.7 strikeout percentage last year. For Kansas City, I was deciding between Jonathan India and Chris Bubich, who I both love for this season, but the leadoff spot is a selling point to go with India in my eyes. India has such a well-rounded skill set, as I could see him reaching 20 homers and 20 steals while providing a strong on-base percentage. Batting leadoff behind Bobby Witt Jr. could help him reach 100 runs if he does stick in that spot. One of my favorite sleepers for the upcoming 2025 campaign is Matt Wallner of the Minnesota Twins. Wallner possesses massive power while also being able to post a respectable batting average. Many of his underlying numbers were very close to elite in 2024, and it looks like he's also starting as a leadoff man for the Twins. I think there's real 30-homer potential here, with strong counting stats that could surpass 80 runs and 80 RBIs. Somehow, someway, Jackson Holliday remains a sleeper so far this spring, so that's my pick for the Orioles. The consensus top prospect just a season ago, Holliday's first taste of the bigs obviously did not go as planned. However, he's now got his feet wet, and he showed well-rounded abilities in the minors. He's even showed flashes in a small sample in the majors. He's also publicly stated that his goal is to steal at least 20 bases this year. The Red Sox pick is an easy one for me, and that's starting pitcher Richard Fitts, who had a brief stint in the majors last season and found success. Fitts typically sat at around 94 to 95 with the heater in the past, but has been closer to 97 this spring, which has caught my interest. He has a pair of breaking balls that are solid, and he has generated a fair amount of buzz during the month of March. Austin Wells is the clear-cut sleeper selection for the Yankees in my opinion after a 2024 season in which he showed some promise at the plate. Wells now has less competition for playing time and looks to be the leadoff hitter for the Yanks, which should both boost his counting stats a massive amount. He has the ability to reach 20 homers paired with a decent average and will even chip in a couple steals too for good measure. The Rays are absolutely loaded with sleepers right now, but my favorite is Brandon Lau. Lau has some of the most prolific power at the second base position, and that should play up even more at Steinbrenner Field that has similar dimensions to Yankee Stadium. Add in the Florida humidity, and it's easy to envision Lau reaching 30 homers in 2025. It also doesn't hurt that he's slotted to hit second as well. Moving on to the Jays now, my pick is Will Wagner, who is entering his second major league season. Wagner has gone completely under the radar thus far, even though he's shown his strong ability to hit for average when he had a 307 mark last year. He has great plate discipline, rarely striking out, and took many walks in the minors. The power isn't obviously flashy, but the rest of his skill set should shine. Now we head to the Oakland Athletics, and here I've decided to go with Jeffrey Springs. Springs is now a forgotten man after having Tommy John surgery in 2023 and underwhelming in his return just last year. He was once one of the more promising pitchers in the league just a couple of years ago. I don't love this pick as a whole, but I wouldn't be surprised if Springs refound his past success in 2025. Starting pitcher Spencer Arrighetti is my sleeper for the Astros, and he's coming off of an interesting rookie year. Arrighetti was an absolute disaster in the first half of 2024, really struggling with walks, but in the second half, he became one of the better pitchers in the league. His strikeout ability is legit thanks to great extension on the mound and a strong whiff rate. Keeping the free passes down is key to him unlocking his full potential this season. Next up is the Angels, where my sleeper choice is first baseman Nolan Schanuel, who is entering his second major league season. Schanuel's calling card is his on-base ability, which is evident by his .343 on-base percentage in 2024. He rarely chases pitches outside of the zone and rarely whiffs on pitches inside of the zone. He's also shown ability to provide both double-digit power and speed. That takes us to Seattle now, and Victor Robles is my choice for them. Robles looked like a total bust of a prospect just a couple seasons ago, but he's managed to rejuvenate his career in Seattle. He flashed major speed on the bases last year with 34 stolen bases in just 91 games, but his .307 average was the most impressive part. Leading off for the Mariners this season, 100 runs and 50 stolen bases is certainly a possibility if he can keep up the strong on-base skills. Next up is the Texas Rangers, where I'm going in the direction of starting pitcher Jack Leiter. Leiter was a mess in his limited 35 innings as a rookie, posting an ERA of almost 9, but the skills are still intriguing. He touches the upper 90s with his fastball and also has an above-average slider in his arsenal. One of the more highly regarded prospects, Leiter now gets an opportunity to start in the rotation with multiple Rangers pitching injuries happening recently. While you could argue for Pete Crow or Matt Shaw on the Cubs, I'm going with the true sleeper, which is Michael Busch. Busch actually had a solid first season with the Cubs, hitting 21 homers and scoring 73 runs with a .248 average, but people still seem to be uninterested. He's projected to hit cleanup entering the year, and I can envision a 25-homer, 90 RBI season with one of the better walk rates in the league. I feel like Nick Lodolo has been on every sleeper list for the past 3 seasons, but he's again my choice for the Cincinnati Reds. His stuff is just so dominant when he's healthy and on his game that you can see the number 2 ability that he flashes. He struggled to stay healthy though, and his park does him no favors, but this is simply a pick betting that the skill will finally override the negatives this year. This takes me to the Milwaukee Brewers now, and outfielder Garrett Mitchell is my choice here. Mitchell's strongest tool is his elite speed, which helped him steal 11 bases in just over 200 plate appearances in 2024, but don't discredit his hit tool either. He's a guy with the ability to hit 270 plus while getting on base at a high rate, and he even has some decent power that could reach the high teens if everything breaks right for him. The first reliever on the sleeper list comes from the Pirates, and that's Colin Holderman. Many are assuming that David Bednar gets the first crack at saves once again in 2025, which is probably the case, but I think Holderman steals that job fairly quickly. Bednar has had a poor spring, and Holderman is coming off a brilliant season, posting a 3.16 ERA with 56 strikeouts in 51 innings. Catcher Ivan Herrera is my selection from the St. Louis Cardinals. With Contreras transitioning to first base this season, Herrera should be in line to see more plate appearances in 2025, and let me tell you that this guy can flat out hit. The power is still developing, but he hit for a .301 average in 2024 and had a .372 on-base percentage. It's only a matter of time before he's hitting higher up in the order as well. Grant Holmes of the Atlanta Braves is one of my favorite sleepers for this upcoming season simply because of his mustache. In all seriousness, Holmes is a bit of a journeyman, but was awesome in 2024 with a 3.56 ERA and a 1.18 whip across 68 innings. He had an absolutely elite chase and whiff rate last year, and with the Atlanta offense backing him again, he should rack up a ton of wins too. Ryan Weathers was my original choice for the Marlins, but with his arm injury, I'm pivoting to third baseman Connor Norby. Acquired from the Orioles last year, Norby is a guy with big-time pop, which you can see by his 9 homers in only 45 games last year. He likely will never make above-average contact, but his power is real, and 30 homers is a realistic possibility. Hitting second in the lineup should help his counting stats as well, even on a bad club. Maybe an opening day starter isn't a legit sleeper, but I don't think that Clay Holmes of the New York Mets is getting enough love. Transitioning from a reliever to a starter in 2025, Holmes will be tasked with carrying a heavy workload on a shallow Mets rotation. He's really impressed so far this spring training, and the pure stuff has never been a question. It just depends on whether or not he can handle a massive innings jump. Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies is starting to become less and less of a sleeper with every day that passes, but for now I'm still listing him as one. He was obviously very solid last year, but I do still think he has another level to reach. His elite ground ball rate, paired with soft contact he induces, gives him a strong floor, but his chase percentage was one of the best in the game, suggesting many more strikeouts could be on the way. Moving on to the Washington Nationals now, that brings me to second baseman Luis Garcia. Garcia put up 18 homers and 22 stolen bases with a .282 average, and yet not many believe that he can repeat it. It feels like he's older than he is since he's been around for a few years, but he's still just 24 years old. He has serious potential for a 25-25 campaign this upcoming season. The fact that Lourdes Gurriel Jr. of the Arizona Diamondbacks is still a sleeper is mind-boggling to me. Lourdes is a model of consistency, constantly hitting for a 25-homer pace with a handful of steals and an average in the 270 to 290 range. He's not flashy by any means, but he's an above-average hitter that's simply not treated as one. Hitting third again in what should be a top lineup should help him produce similar numbers once again. While Thairo Estrada is a great sleeper, my pick has to be slugger Michael Toglia for the Colorado Rockies. Toglia simply crushes the ball as he had 25 homers in 116 games, showing his 40-homer potential in a full season. His average exit velocity is top tier, and in Coors Field, that should play up even more. Oh, and he also chipped in 10 stolen bases, showing some promise in that regard as well. The Dodgers don't have many sleepers obviously, but since I have to pick one, I'm gonna go with Michael Conforto. It seems, at least to open the season, Conforto will be an everyday player, and in an absolutely loaded lineup, his counting stats should be awesome. I could definitely envision a way that he gets to 25 homers while also posting a respectable 240-ish average in the process. Nick Pivetta of the San Diego Padres is definitely a top 5 sleeper of mine entering 2025. The move over to Petco Park should help a guy who is certainly a flyball pitcher, and that paired with his strikeout ability could help him reach another level if it all comes together. The walk rate also significantly improved in 2024, and if he can carry that over, the sky is truly the limit for him. And finally, the last sleeper on this list is Hayden Birdsong of the San Francisco Giants. Birdsong has dominated thus far in spring training and looks to be on track for the final rotation spot if he can beat out Landon Roop. His stuff is absolutely unreal for his age. The problem has always been the control. However, he hasn't allowed a single walk in 12 innings during the month, so it seems he's made progress in that aspect of his game. And with that being said, that concludes one sleeper from every MLB team entering 2025. Let me know in the comments what you agree or disagree with and who you think is a big time sleeper for 2025. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next one.